Hello there, moin moin ladies and gentlemen, Donspektor here with another ear tip review, and today for you I have the HiFiGo X ZEOS render ear tips. Yes, today we are taking a look at one of the not so many corporations that ZEOS has done over the last years, and yeah, this is actually an ear tip. And yeah, for all of you who have not heard about this ear tip, that's, as you can see here, a hybrid ear tip, and there now are like, I think 3 or 4 different versions of this one, and this one is the only that ZEOS decided to make with HiFiGo together. And yeah, there's a packaging already. As you can see, it comes in a nice neat little box. You open it just like that, and then you have here ZEOS logo, and you get 3 sets of ear tips. Price-wise, this clocks in for $13 for 3 pairs. And claim-wise, I will not read the claims what they say these can or can't do. But yeah, you can find the link to the product description in the link down below. And yeah, just see for yourself what the claims are, what these can or can't do, according to the manufacturer. And yes, that means one pair, like you see it here, would clock in at $4.33. That makes them cheaper, well, not the cheapest, but on the cheaper side of things. And I will also shorten the videos here a bit by just basically giving you a graphic on how all of these tips clock in that I've looked at, so you can see for yourself how expensive or cheap they are. But yeah, $4.33 per pair is actually relatively cheap for what you get. And then next we already come to the comfort section here. And again, this is a hybrid tip, as you can see. That means it has silicone on the outside, it has a silicone stem on the inside, and then they just insert some thin foam in here. Just for comparison, let me get another foam tip in so you see what I mean. This is a regular foam tip. This is the BGVP foam tip. And you can see this one already has a bit more foam, especially visible if you see the front here, where you can just see that all of this is foam, while this here just has a layer of foam that gets thinner the closer it gets to the front. And yeah, that means generally this behaves similar to foam, but not identical. So this means compared to the BGVP here, this one is definitely more squishy than this here. And that means, I struggle to give this a fair rating, I have to admit. Because first, there are a good amount of positive reviews about this, and unfortunately, I can't get this to fit right. Like, I'm not sure what the reason for this is. It could be that S is just a bit too big for me. S clocks in at 11.15 millimeters, M at 12.5, and L at 14. So this usually is a bit big for my ear canal here, especially considering the length. That could be a reason. And the other one may be that it's just not so squishy. Like, really, if I press it like this, it has a really good resistance to it. This might be one of the hardest tips I have looked at in the most recent history. The MS42, even those that are similar to the Zetna earfit silicone series, so relatively hard, these are softer than the render ear tips here. And that means I struggle to get this to fit me just right. In fact, there's only one IEM I found this reasonably comfortable with, and this is the Supermix 4, which already is fitting me very well. But yeah, with all other IEMs I tried this, it was just kind of, like not bad, but also not wearable for like even 20 minutes. So I was like, not worth it. And yeah, that means, unfortunately, in my subjective comfort rating, these rank pretty much at the bottom for me. Not exactly the worst. I still think finally are worse in terms of comfort. But yeah, again, like X-Elastics, the most comfortable, followed by Cut Foam on the same level as SpinFit Omni, which in turn is a bit better than CP360, which in turn is as good as Liquid Silicone, which is almost as good as SD35, followed by Tungsten Kai, then S&S, then after that Render, about the same as Crystal, and then last but not least, finally. So yeah, they rank pretty much at the bottom when in terms of comfort to me. And yeah, it's too tough. Like, even when the foam warms up, it just doesn't get much softer, and it also doesn't comply as good as, real foam would. I assume most likely because obviously the foam has a different squishability than the silicone, and both together kind of just get harder than one by themselves. So yeah, as I said, comfort not a strong point of these. But how about isolation? I mean, usually foam tips like this one here isolate very well, and I usually say, get a dense foam tip if you want to have the best isolation out there. And yeah, this has theoretically the best of both worlds. As you can see here, this is a dense foam on the inside. Like you can see, it's pretty damn dense in there. And yeah, if you press it a bit, you can also see it's conforming relatively well, has a slow bounce to it. Unfortunately though, I don't think it's that great isolating. Some Compli foam tips, I think the T500 or so, they isolate better than this. So that means in my artificial rating scale, where 10 is the best foam tip out there and 1 is the worst silicone, this ranks at kind of 7. Like, I think decent foam tips like the BGVP foam can manage an 8 if you get them to insert well. This one is more like a 7 to me. Again, as I said, like, issue could be that I just can't get this to insert it as well as it should be, so maybe I'm suffering a bit there. But yeah, generally, even if you get it right with the Supermix 4, while it's well isolating, it's not that well isolating. And I think, yeah, as I said, normal foam tips that have just a bit thicker foam should do a better job than this one here. And when we come to shaping sound, as usual, as you probably have guessed by my reviews, the last recent reviews, it's all really subjective and objective here. And first, subjective first, where I just, without looking at measurements, I just tell you how I feel this sounds. And then we take a look at the measurements and check if my subjective feeling is correct or not. Can happen, doesn't have to. So, in my opinion, this behaves like basically all other medium outlet silicone tips out there. My benchmark ear tip, which is just a random one with a similar outlet diameter, sounds pretty similar to me. That means bass is well pronounced, it has good punch, yeah, mids are clear enough, and treble, while not being reduced, is also not increased at all. Occasionally with this tip, it could be also due to the way how long this is and how it fits in my ear. I have the feeling it might have reduced mid to upper treble transition slightly, but if it is the case, then just very lightly, and maybe it's also just my hearing being different on that day. So it's just, again, I'm not certain it happened. It could be just me perceiving things a bit different, but just subjective here, right? And then we go to objective, and we start with the quintet here because, yes, according to measurements, this is an odd one. Check first out the ones with the fake pinner. Looks normal, right? There's nothing weird here, just looks like, yeah, how the quintet should measure. But now, check out the one without pinner. Whoa, 4.5 to 7K is actually boosted over what would be considered normal. And again, this is probably measuring artifact somehow, because to my ear, I can't perceive this boost. But this just goes to show you that it could happen if you just insert into just right or just wrong, whatever it is, you can boost specific regions here. And yes, I tried to re-see the IM after seeing the measurements. I tried to make sure it's actually in there, and it was. So yeah, I could still measure this artifact. I just can't tell you how, if it's real or not. Like, this is something where I think you need to have trials for yourself to see, because to my ear, this does not exist with the quintet. And yeah, just quickly looking at the AGO7M as well, it also doesn't exist. It just measures pretty similarly here. You could say could be considered as a light reduction in mid to upper treble here compared to some other tips, but compared to my reference here, it's just, it's alright. Like, maybe a bit less, but the coupler also, again, past 10K, not that accurate. So yeah, it seems to be measuring just normally if you do not consider the problem of the quintet measurement here. It could be that you get this artifact. Again, the measurement shows it. It's possible that this can happen to you, but to my ear it didn't happen. So it's one of those things I can't tell you how likely it is. I just lack the data set to tell you if it's likely or not. So just say it can happen. I just don't know how likely it is. And the next, additional factors. And yeah, as you might have already guessed and seen, this is a hybrid tip, so that means it has foam on the inside and silicone on the outside. And this makes it a bit finicky in terms of usage. So that's how I can describe it, is if you mount it or unmount it, the foam will wiggle around in it will move a bit out, it will maybe even slide out when you try to yeah, remove the tip from the IEM. And I'm not sure if this is the best idea to not glue the foam inside. I don't know, honestly, because it's just a bit finicky. But that also means, on the other hand, you could theoretically remove the foam to just clean the tip with water. Because as it is at the moment, obviously you don't want to use water because the foam would absorb the water. So how I tend to clean this is just using cloth with some cleaning alcohol and just wipe it on the outside and stuff it a bit on the inside to get it clean there. Because I'm not sure how durable the foam is. Like, if you constantly remove it and then put it back in there, like, it's a bit, like, it already feels a bit finicky in the hand, and then mounting and unmounting it. So I just wouldn't like to do that. And that also means durability wise, I'm not sure how long this tip will actually last, because the foam layer here is on the thinner side of things and also gets thinner on the front. And obviously the more you squish it and the more often you squish it, the foam will also deteriorate over time. And because it's so thin and it's already finicky, or the way how it's inserted here, not sure how long lasting this is. Logically, I would say it's probably not as good as good silicone tips are in terms of durability, but it's also not as bad as normal foam tips would be, because yeah, most foam tips out there, especially the compli ones, they are very soft and squishy, so they deteriorate rather quickly. This should be a bit better, but I'm not sure how much, and I have not worn this often enough due to the comfort problems I stated before, but I can tell you how long they last in day-to-day life. So yeah, that's additional factors. And the next, last but not least, the conclusion here. As I said before, I kind of struggle to give this a fair review. On the one hand, the structure here is not unique, but it's a good idea in theory. But on the other hand, you kind of also get the worst of both worlds now. You have the durability problems with foam, and you have the not that well conforming to your ear of silicone here, and that combined together also means it's pretty hard, it's not as comfortable, and yeah, I struggle to get this to fit right. But there is good things to this. It definitely does isolate better than most silicone tips out there. And I think if you get it to fit just right, it can also be a decent choice for longer comfort. Just for myself, I can't recommend it because I think it's just too hard. It's not conforming well enough to my ear. And also, yeah, the sizes are also a bit of a problem because, yeah, S is just still a bit big. And I do understand why S is 11.5, right? If you would shrink it even more, there's even less foam inside, which means you benefit even less from the additional material there. So, yeah, I see why S is chosen as it is. But I still think there should be some sizes in between and some smaller sizes because, yeah, this is just a bit too big and not squishy enough to my ear. And that's it. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have questions, if you have recommendations or criticisms, please leave a comment. Donspektor out.